Okay, how's everybody doing? So, the railroad station. I'm going to build a railroad station, and I'll give you a quick intro on what I'm going to build, and I'll just explain to you how I'm going to cover it. So, I don't want to get into a blow-by-blow, cut every part, show every pedantic, long, lengthy, build series. I want to keep it to the point. So I'm going to build and maintain momentum here and do updates along the way and show significant things that I think are important. Okay, so to start off with, in terms of importance, is you need research. So notice I have photos and research. Now I'm quite fortunate because the station I want to build, which is a Canadian Northern country station, I have one down the road 1 kilometer away from my place, so I was able to get all the reference I need, which is a beautiful thing. And this station, I'll talk to you about it in a second, but this is a really excellent book I recommend by Charles Bohai, The Country Stations in Western Canada. So these were quite popular stations, without going into all the history. They had beautiful, I think they're one of the most beautiful railroad stations, like Canadian, ever built or designed. So they had different versions of them, like they changed them, like lengthened them and so on. Like some had stucco, some had siding, right? And they were all across mostly Western Canada. So I have one down the road, and it's on the CN main line. You can see it's a CN, actually Canadian Northern, and then Grand Trunk, Canadian National, etc. So this is a really good book, and in fact it even has a set of plans that I was able to get a rough draft from, to build from, to get a floor plan and elevation, etc. So that's what I did, and then basically I'll show you and I'll explain to you about this shack right here in a second. So you can see I got a rough builder's drawing. I got side elevation, I got the front elevation, and then I got the floor plan. Okay, so now what I did was I went down to the original depot, which is near my place, and I have tons of excellent photographs. This is the depot I'm going to build. Okay, beautiful, isn't it? So I was able to get measurements off this, so it'll be fairly authentic in terms of dimensions. It's not going to be perfect, because no model is, especially in HO scale. Probably the ideal scale to build in, I think anyways, in 148 or O, but right now I'm doing 187 because it fits my scope and vision of the layout. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to point out, so I got a couple of measurements here. I went down there, sketched just to make sure. Didn't realize this wall was 11'4" high. When I drew it, it was smaller, so I fixed that. Just the depth of the awning and the window sizes and so on, which is really important stuff. So this is the building, like where this is going to go on the layout. I'll just point that out. Okay, so here's the station in place of where that little shack was, that little yard office, which I thought looks pretty good too. It looks good from this angle, like the yard office with Axton steel and the sort of industrial feel behind it. But then when you look at it this way, east, like the station is, it looks completely different. It just didn't fit. It's funny the way that is, eh? Like one of the challenges of model railroads, well, your own small personal one, is you have to realize that at some point you just got to accept whatever you want to do. And, I have a really strong prototypical feel on section 1. This is section 2, and I said early on that this was mostly freelance, even though there would be elements of the prototype in it. And this is a prototypical station that's actually restored down the street off the CN main, about a mile away from the SRY connector. So on River Road, in the story of River Road, it's preserved. And it's set back a little bit like the real station is. So it's not actually a functional station, but it's preserved. And I love it. I just love this scene. I wouldn't change it for a minute. But you know what? I could put the diner here too. Or I could put that other little yard office there. And any building looks good in this spot, I think. But right now I really love this station. And I want to show you how I built it, because if you learn how to scratch build, every time you scratch build a model, you get more confidence on the next one. Like if you're going to build a building, just build a simple trackside shanty with a simple gable roof. And before you know it, as time goes by and as each subsequent model gets done, you just challenge yourself more and you accomplish models that are maybe a little bit more complicated. This one was a challenge. I'm going to show you how I did the different gable roofs and stuff. There's different ways of doing it. I have my way of doing it. I'm going to show you how I do that. Well, I'm going to cover as much of it as I can to keep it interesting. And I just wanted to show the station ahead of time because I don't usually do a format where I make you wait till the end. But anyway, you'll see a lot of it and how I installed lighting, etc., and some of the details on the inside. And I just love this model. It's probably one of my favorite, like full-on models, like a full structure with interior detailing and lighting, okay? Okay, so this building was originally from Glover Road, and I want to maintain or recover every building off Glover Road, which I have, so I can reset that little layout up in terms of it being authentic when I first built it, when I started this channel. So this building has been a stand-in. I knew that all along on the layout there. As much as I like it there, it could use a little bit larger building, I think, because the trees and accent kind of dominate it. Now, prototypically, how does it get there? Well, in the story of River Road, it was moved there by SRY preserved it, you know, or whatever. Because, I mean, they have a relationship with Canadian National. Well, they have a relationship. SRY Rail Link has a relationship with all the Class 1 railroads in Canada, in Western Canada, including Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, and BNSF. So that's what I'm going to do is this building is going to replace this building, and this is going back to Glover Road. So just for starters, I've pretty much laid up the floor plan. Now let me just mention, so I'm not going to be building a wooden substructure like I normally do. I do that to avoid deflection and warpage and so on, so I won't go into that, but that's what can happen. How you make that call is up to you. Warehouses are an easy decision. Plywood, plastic, you know, like Varathane, C8 panels, etc. Long runs, they stay straight and rigid. This is a full build, like a little bit of interior maybe, but generally a full structure build. So I want to keep all the profiles thin, and I want to build the whole model with plastic weld and evergreen plastic. This is the proper, well, any solvent is the proper adhesive for plastic. If you're using CA, and I'll just be bold to say this, you're doing it wrong. This is great adhesive, but it's not meant. I mean, you can glue plastic, but you want to weld plastic, not mechanically bond it. And you'll see why as I build it. Because if you try to sand this with plastic, they're two different properties, and you just won't get a smooth surface, and it becomes brittle. If you build with this, it welds the plastic. So this is the correct adhesive. You don't have to use Plastruct. You can use Tamiya. They're Ambroid, etc., Mech, whatever you want to use. But this is what I use because it's low odor, okay? And I don't want to be around the atmosphere of odors if I can help it. So I have built the foundation here. I extended it a bit. This is an option. I don't know how far, like some of the, you know, the boardwalks or the platforms on these stations varied. Like they all had little different variations. So instead of a 8-foot platform, I might want a 12. So I'm going to see how it fits the space. If I have to, I can cut this back, but the front of the station, it comes to about here. So it's not a very large building. So it's quite a suitable building for the spot or the footprint where I want to put this, okay? And then you can see now, before I cut the first side, I'm going to cut this end, which in this case is the east end of the building. And I'm just going to draft it onto this particular, let me just grab the material and I'll show you for siding. This is as close as I could find, V-groove number 4060, because you can see here that it's not vertical siding, it's horizontal. So when I counted like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I counted on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's pretty close, this particular V-groove for HO scale, okay? So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to update as we go, and we're going to have fun. I want to build this nice little station for River Road. Okay, so let's talk about scribing and cutting windows. Okay, so this will cover a lot of the other sides. I'm just going to point out a couple of things that I think that are very important, and once again, they're my preferred choice of tools and methodology here. So you can do it any way you want, but this is the way I do it, and I think that there is, in some cases, correct ways of doing certain things like scribing plastic. Okay, but before I show you this, let me just talk about some of the items. So I'll list the windows that I use down below in the description under the videos. So what I want to say first is these are the two kind of go-to windows, right? Like, I'm not going to scratch build these. No, I'm not that crazy. I know I'm a little crazy, but not that much. I'm not building double hung, 9-pane windows, which is what I need. But I want to point out, I can't find any 9-pane windows. Like, okay, so this is Grant Line. They've been around for eons. I love Grant Line, but they've sort of been superseded by TC Train Group. Now, I don't know whether they got the molds from them or bought them. I don't know, but thank you, TC, and thank you, Grant Line, for all your wonderful service to this beautiful hobby that we all share. So I like these because they show right here, 30-inch wide by 47 inches high, right? That's really important because that helps us get close to the style of window that we want to try to apply, right? It won't always be exact, but we can cheat them a bit and make them work, okay? What's important here is the 9 panes. See the 9 panes in the windows? So I couldn't find any by Tishi. Maybe they're available, but I'm not going to wait to order everything. I like to just keep rolling. So I have these, which are close to the right size, but they're 6-light sash windows by Grant Line. However, these ones right here, I'll show you how to modify these. These are real Grand style depot windows, and they have a 9-pane window on them. And I'm going to show you how I can cut them and make them work for these windows here, okay? But before I do that, let me point out a couple things. So, it's a good idea to have a very sharp pencil, okay? And oftentimes I'll lightly sand the surface because it takes a pencil mark better. You can wipe this off with isopropyl alcohol later, or sand away the pencil marks if you want, if you're concerned when you're painting a white building and covering that up. But you want a really sharp pencil, right? That's important because you're cutting fine lines, okay? I use this pencil sharpener right here. It's just something you would overlook, but it's made in Germany. This is the best pencil sharpener I've ever owned for this style of a pencil, like the HB2 I use. It's just like, it puts like a laser, like a number 11 blade style tip on it, okay? I mean, it's just beautiful, right? Look at that, okay? That's important. Drill bits. So this was made in Germany. I'll save the best for last. This is made in Japan, right? These are God hand drill bits. If you can still get these, especially this set here, A set, grab one. Don't waffle. Yeah, they're expensive, but get one and you'll never regret it, okay? I have all 3 sets. I find that I use the C set mostly, but I use the D's as well. And of course the A for the smaller ones. So if you can get your hands on a set of these, grab them. They're the best investment you'll ever make if you want to be a scratch builder. Now, last but not least, number 11 blades made where? In the USA. These blades right here are the best modeler scratch builder's blade ever made. There's no argument. Every other blade takes second place. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. These, like, if you learn to scribe properly, these will last you a long time, one blade. And the tip, it's the tips that are just beautiful point tip, right? You can resharpen your blades. That's another discussion. I don't waste time. I just buy 100-lot blades, and that's the way I've always done it my whole life. Is I'll buy individual 5-packs, but usually I'll just grab 100-lot. So if I'm speed building, I don't want to mess around sharpening blades and so on. So before I show you how to modify this window, let me point out a couple things about scribing. So do not use the back of your blade to scribe. Like, people promote that. Why? Like, if you're going to cut like 100 thou thick, then I'm going to use basically a professional Olfa knife for heavy material, right? But when I'm cutting small, like 40 thou, 60 thou, I'm probably going to use a number 11. I'm not going to use the back of the blade, especially on a V-groove profile, bouncing along and making a rough, like, use the edge of the knife. And the trick is here, and this is to address a question that somebody was asking, how do I cut a straight line with like a razor knife or like in this case, a number 11 or any knife? And I'm pretty sure they didn't mean, you know, use a straight edge, because that's a given, right? We use a straight edge. But the trick is to start your line and just do a light pass, like the weight of your arm, right? Like pull your arm, not your hand. Use your arm, like in your mind, pull your whole arm and hold your hand steady, okay? Lightly. Let the weight of your arm do it, and then do 3, 4, 5 passes, but not super heavy. You can push a little bit heavy once you got a groove going. And then basically what you can do is you can just snap away, okay, the plastic, all right? Easy peasy, right? That's the beauty of evergreen plastic, or any styrene for that matter. Now, I want to use these windows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this window. I'm going to turn it upside down, okay? And I'm just going to push down. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to push down, because I can basically scratch in the bottom sash of the window with a piece of strip, okay? So you can see that I've basically cut these out. Lots of light passes, nice point. You can get a nice cut out there, right? Okay, so this is 40 thou. This is the ideal thickness for siding that I find. You can get thinner for applying cosmetic siding, but to build out a structure, I like to use 40 thou, the 40 thou. And then there's also 20 thou. And no, there's no 10, but 40 and 20. So that's what I do, is I basically just scribe from each corner out, okay? And you can even do it by eye. You can just use your arm and draw a line and just pull lightly, though, lightly first, right? Until you get a nice little groove going, and then you can pop those out, okay? So now you can see where these windows, they just drop right in, right? Okay? And then what I'll do is I'll use a sash or strip for my bottom sill, okay? And that'll cover those windows nice, see? All right? Okay, so I want to add this in because I probably haven't stressed safety enough on my channel, and I would like to. Now, when you use these tools, be very, very careful, okay? I injured myself quite a ways back on the diner build. I don't know if I really want to show a photo. For the a week of heart, that might not be a good idea, but it happened. I used one of these knives in the industry for, I don't know, 10 years. Never cut myself once. And I used them all day long. 1 inch too. This is a 3/4 Olfa. Use the 3/4 Olfa for anything over 40 thou thick. This is 60 thou thick. Use a pro knife, a heavier knife with a heavier blade, okay? Be careful, because this is 40 thou. You can use this number 11. But don't underestimate this little blade. It's the little blades that can do the most damage because we underestimate them, okay? So one of the challenges with this type of build is deciding where you're going to put the like the shear walls, because you got to have shear walls, okay, to build. I can't just build just a box and then throw a roof on it, because it's a complicated roof, as you'll soon see. But and you want everything to square up, and it's not easy to do a multiple gabled roof. People have their own ways of doing it. I'm a visual person, and I'll use paper templates until I get the angles right, and then I'll cut from that. But I want to be able to have braces in the middle, and this is the end, and then this one in the middle, and then I'm cutting this one. I'll show you this here. This has already been scribed, and this is like the important part with scribing is take your time and resist trying to cut through. Like, you never want to cut through plastic, especially this is, I think, 60 thou, this piece, but you just want to scribe. Like, you only need to go scribe, you know, maybe 20% of the thickness, and you're good to go. You get a clean snap. Even less sometimes. You can just run a knife across and almost snap it. But so you can see where, watch, you'll see how this comes apart. There's some tricky parts in here. Sometimes you have to drill a hole or two. But once you get it going, they usually pop. A little bit of cleanup there. This one here, I might have to drill that one. Or I may have to slice it here, just because I don't want to deform this, but I'll get that. So this form, we'll call it a former, is going to go in here like this. So notice how they change, right? Like this, like it'll make sense, but it changes as it goes from one end of the house to the other. So here's the top gable, okay, which will look like here's the first one, and then the next one in the middle is this one, and then the next one down is this one, which will be the top roof. And then the roof panels will go up against this face. There's another gable here. It's probably best to wait to just jump ahead on the build and then talk about this. Okay, so you can see I just drilled a series of holes here because I don't want to wreck this area, and it has 3 sides. So if you drill holes, you can cut through it all the way through, and then just, you know, remove the piece and then just clean this up. Some people use nibblers. Even the Evergreen Plastics book you can buy suggests that, but I don't like using them, so I just use this method. Good enough. So I just want to point out a little tip here. When you're doing a small wall section like this and you're cutting out for a window, in this case, this grant line window here, it helps to maybe draft the wall onto your piece and then just scribe it, but don't cut all the way through. But then work on your window, because it helps to hold the, like, gives you something to hold on to instead of trying to hold this little wall. And furthermore, if you don't have a super sharp tip knife, it helps to just drill the corners out on these inner cutouts. Like, the piece will pop out easier. Just in case you were thinking if there's another easier way to get these cutouts. Once again, it's 40 thou, which is the maximum thickness that I use for this kind of wall cosmetic features, right? So you can see this just drops in like this. And if it's too tight, I can just, that's a nice snug fit. So this will just pop. And then I'll show you where this goes. Like, these walls, they all just sort of pop in. And then this wall will go, well, I'll show you how all these other pieces go in, but this will be for in here, which is this wall right here. This wall is this one. Okay. Okay, this is probably a good time to just talk about some decisions that when you scratch build any building you have to make along the way, because you don't have a set of plans like builder's plans. Like you'll have drawings that you work from and then draft your own, etc., or napkin drawing, or just build straight from a photo, whatever method you prefer. But you're going to have to make ongoing decisions about the actual model and how you want it to be. Like for example, like notice the planking on the deck here, right? The platform. So if you're going to model the inside of buildings, you got to bear in mind that the floor is probably going to be, like the main floor is going to be at the same level. So if you decide early on that you're going to model the whole inside of the floor plan, well then you would probably lay down some novelty siding or something to simulate planks and then put all your walls on top of that, so you don't have to do this. I'm going to zoom in and just show you this quick how I'm doing this. Like planking on the inside, I'm adding it as 10 thou, 10 by 60 thou by Evergreen. Scored with some rough 60 sandpaper, but I'll show you that in a second. So you can do it that way if you want. There's many ways you can do that, but because I already know in my mind that I want to just see a little bit into the office, I want to be able to see into the baggage because I want to have the doors open. So I want to model this floor. And another thing is too is if you pre-skin the floor with siding, you're not going to get stuff like there's a plank running this way on the threshold. Oops, sorry, let me just move this a little bit here, or pull this out so I can show you clearly. See this right here? There's a plank that runs across this way along the threshold of the baggage door. Well, that's not going to be on your prescribed floor plan if you just lay a sheet down. So, and then furthermore, you can add in variations, which I'll show up closer in a second, of your planking. Because I know the door's open right here, okay? So let's just say this is the back side. It's buried under here somewhere. But anyway, I already know that the door is going to be there. So when I'm looking in, so when I'm modeling this floor, I can do certain details ahead of time because I know I'll be able to see inside of there. So let me just zoom in for a sec. Okay, so you can see here that I can model the planking. This is 10 by 60 thou, number 103. Okay, so I can randomly lay in the plank, I can space it out, I can nibble off at 10 feet or 8 feet or whatever, and just add a variation of planking, because I know full well that I'm going to be able to see. And I don't put that much cement either there. You can see I just sort of wick it in on the side as I build it out. So I'm just going to go like that, and then I'm just going to cut these off. Well, here, let me just put some cement there. Once again, notice the use of the number 11 blade. The number 11 blade is your best friend. Even if there's some variations, because there's going to be shrinkage in the planking. This is like 1 by 4, 1 by 5 dimensional planking, so it would vary because when they rebuild and so on, and each carpenter to each area is going to do their own thing. I mean, they're going to have a general plan, but all these buildings varied somewhat. They had the same profile and roughly similar floor plan, but the materials, because there was no globalization back then, they would have used local lumber most likely. So you can see how I'm just laying this in. So once this is done, then I can basically line up the walls nicely to it. And then what I'll do is I'll just plank the outside deck the same way, but with a little bit wider stock, because the actual prototype here can be wider, or this is probably the same on the inside. So this is pretty close right here. So I'll probably go with this, either 10 by 60 or 10 by 80, but we'll see. Okay, now I'll just show you the walls, how the walls tilt up, okay? Okay, so I want to show you how I'm tilting the walls up. I don't know if I mentioned this, I'll just briefly summarize quick. So you can see these formers. The first former I built was this end, which I call the east side of the building. And I sort of took my specs from this. Once I got this to where I wanted it,
then I built out the subsequent, like just started squaring up off of this, right? Make sure this is exactly square on the foundation. We'll call this base plate the foundation or the footprint of the model. And so I'm basically using the drawing, the builder's drawing that I took off of from the book. So you can see roughly, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you can see like this wall where my thumb is this wall right here. And then this wall is this one right here. This center wall, which runs straight up to the tip of the gable, is this one. And then, of course, there's this wall here. And then there's another elevation from the other end. So it's just sort of, any modeler doesn't know exactly every part that you're going to build. Like when you scratch wood, you got to figure it out as you go, right? You just do trial runs. Like I wasted a few little pieces already, but that's okay, right? So let me just show you how these walls are going to go in. So some of them will be glued in place, but some will be convertible, like they'll be able to be pulled off at the back so I can access for lights, etc. So here's the baggage compartment wall. That's going to go like that, right? That's this door right here, which is pretty easy to do. I have some baggage doors, but I want to do it like this prototype. Even though this building has changed and was modified a little bit at the back, because there's caretakers that live in here, but I'm going to build this in reference to this particular station, but according to the plan in the book, which was the one that you saw previously. So that'll go on like that. Then here's the office piece. You can see that those are 3 walls, so they'll drop in like that. Actually, let's put this other wall in first. So here's the waiting room. So you can see how that fits in. And there's a little bit of a strip at the back because this wall, the office wall, will sit in there like this. Okay. So that's the front. That's this, what you see here. I've got modeled here. And those will probably get fixed in place like glued to give it more structural integrity. Now when I go to the back, so I'm building across like this and then up, right? So at the back, I'm going to probably do it like this. So this wall, okay, will fit in like this. And notice how I put the square stock in there and I made it so it fits tight. So this wall is going to fit quite tight in there so I can just pop it out underneath this other wall above, which would be separate. And then this will probably get glued at a right angle to this strip here so I can pull this whole piece out together to get inside for lights if I need to replace lights or whatever. So I want to have some accessibility there. I can also do it through the roof, but it just depends how the roof pans out. The roof's quite complicated and it might not be that advantageous to have the roof to come on and off because these formers are fixed, right? And I don't want a lot of light bleed. The whole point is I want to seal up corners so I don't have light bleed. And the less seams you have, the less light bleed when the model's lit up. So that's how I'm going to do that. And I have pretty much all the walls together except this back. This is where the kitchen is. So on this particular prototype here, it's a residence. It's part of a residence. But I'm building it according to the original plan of this building where there's a kitchen back here, okay? Okay, so I want to talk about a couple things in the build process here. So as you build out a model like this, even if you have a perfect plan, like a perfect builder's plan, a perfect draft, cutout drawing, whatever, you're still going to have to make adjustments. All right, so there's no perfect model, there's no perfect plan. It's just whatever is good enough for you to get there is all that really matters. So as I'm trying to get there, I'm beginning to think, well, I want to add lights to this building, right? Okay, so I want to light up the baggage compartment here, and I want to do the front office, have a light in there, maybe one in the kitchen right here. Then there's this other area, which is part of the waiting room, but there's a wall here. But this wall wouldn't be here right here, so this is one big living room area, and then the staircase goes up. but this is where the tube's going to come through for all my wires to come. So I'm going to block this area off because it is blocked off anyway with another wall that's going to go in here like this. Okay. So that has a door there, and there's a door here, which I'll have to just do a fascia plant on, or a facade door. This one was cut out, which is the way you should do them. And then there's a door here. I'll have to use a fascia door here. I'll just cut out of styrene, make it out of scrap. So I want to sheet the floor. So if I look, and there's a lot of windows here with the dormer, right? Like the front office area. And so there's, you know, windows on the side and the front. And if you look in, you'll probably see the floor and maybe the bench and a chair, etc., or whatever. So this is all plain here. So I don't want to sheet it individually like this. Like I did this with individual planks just to show what you can do. It has a certain look to it that's kind of random and rough that I like, okay? Or you can use this siding here. This is thin 20 thou by Evergreen. It's on their accessory racks, right? This is 50 thou spacing by 20 thick. So it makes, you can sand this rough with some 60 grit and introduce some grain to it. And it makes for excellent wood flooring, okay? Now I want to get a piece that fits here though, that fits inside this dormer. So here's a little trick that I use. To take a piece of paper, and I use this for lots of cutouts for inner walls and stuff like that sometimes too when it's convenient. So I'm going to slide this paper in there so that it fits in there fairly snug, but with a little tiny bit of play possibly. And then I'm going to take this other wall, which slides in. Like I say, I'm building these walls so they can come in and out so I can make the final decision which ones I want to glue in for structural integrity, or the ones that I want to be wild that I can pull on and off to access the inside of the building throughout the build. So I'm going to slide this in like this. We'll just call it a window box because that's what it's about, to let light in, etc., and to see down the tracks. Okay, and now I'm going to just hold that in place with my thumb, and then I'm going to take a pencil, and there's a little bit of a return in there, so I'm going to make a mark there, and then I'm going to run the pencil line there and then up against the inside wall, and then I don't need to do it down the other side because it's already parallel with the line anyway. So then I take it like that, and now I have a pattern, right? Okay, so I can just cut this with a knife, which is probably the way to do it. Just cut it with a knife. I'll just do it with scissors quick. So now I basically have a pattern, right? Don't I? So I can put it in there and test it, and then what I do is I put it onto this sheet and I just trace it with a straight edge and scribe a piece like that. So there's my flooring, and I just rough it up and grain it up if I want. And now take this wall out. I'm going to slide this in, and then I can slide my wall in on top. I'm going to slide this wall into place. Slide the floor in like so, and then I'll slide my dormer in. You can see it's a perfect fit, right? And then once you get your wall in there and you glue that in, just capillary a bead of liquid solvent down the wall corner, etc., and it's done. So I can pre-paint that and just slide it in. Do you know what I mean? In closing here on this, I can basically, if I want, I can just pre-paint this and then pick out some planks and then rough sand and then just glue it in place, okay? So as they say with the scratch builder, there are no problems, only solutions, right? So with the walls already up, I can't cut door openings. So what I need to do is I need to add some facade style doors, meaning non-functional. They're just for show. So these, I tried to film these, no joy. It's just too, it was all like this, right? This doesn't make for good video, but this is all 10 thou. It's all 10 thou sheet and strip 10 by 60 thou, 10 by 20, built on scrap sheet, and then just strips. You glue one side and just line up with this upper rail and just slice, 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 dab in some glue, and they're done. There's really, like I've done doors in the past, they're the easiest thing to build. In fact, if you can build doors, people say, why bother? Well, in O scale, you don't have to. All right, like most O scalers scratch build a lot of their stuff. But in HO, like I say, the ones that you buy are excellent if they're installed properly. But how are you going to know if you're going to make revisions once the wall's up inside the building? It's pretty tough to get in there to cut the opening. So I'll put one on each side of the wall. And then you can see this is 20 thou that I use for doorknobs. With a Bic lighter, click and just melt the end, just bring it in close, and then mushrooms. Drill a hole on that door plate or that knob plate and then slide it in. And these are good interior doors that I'll just place inside the building, okay? Okay, so I just want to talk to you about the obsession and the privilege of a scratch builder, okay? So here's the ticket office, right? The dispatcher's office. This is the heart of the station, you know, the station culture, you know what I mean? In the 20th century, late 19th century, this is where it all happened, right? So you'd come in here, the waiting room, potbelly stove, and then you'd buy your ticket for the train. But once again, I didn't think about modeling the interior, so here's the obsession. But the privilege is I can do anything I want, right? Like these doors, I couldn't cut openings for these doors, so I made facade, like door facades. See, I added one there. That one I was able to do because it was a separate wall that I dropped in. And then that one is the other side of where the baggage door is there, which is also a plant-on. So if you don't want to build the doors, you can get these from Grantline. They're just door flats. This is a 5-panel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these were 4. There were 4 and 5-panel doors, but I just decided to go with 4 interior door. So the weight, so how am I going to cut that? Like this is 60 thou, or no, is this 80? Anyway, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's 80 thou. Yeah, this is 60. So it's pretty hard to get a tool in there. I can sort of drill out some of it, but I'm going to use my trusty Dremel tool, right? And I'm going to cut out this opening. And then I'm going to use, I used a couple of these Grantline 6-light single sash windows, number 5280. And I basically cut out the center frames. And then I carefully, with a knife, trimmed off all the back inner return framing so they're just flat, right? And then I was able to trim them down by holding them down and with a nice sharp number 11. And then once they were roughly down, I was able to grab it with my finger and just rub it down and basically get 2 sashes, right? So that's what I'll do, and then I'll mount these in there. Sorry, maybe I'll put a piece of clear acetate in there. We'll see, because I think it'll look good. And you want to know why? Because when you look through, when it's lit up with, you know, this dormer on here, this skylighted dormer, well, it's not skylighted, but the side lighted, you'll be able to see, you know, inside the office there. And you'll also, even though this door, but this door is going to have a window in it, I think, so you'll be able to see through there. through the window into the office. Do you know what I mean? And I think with lighting, it'll just look really cool, you know, with an RDC pulled up or, you know, or whatever, right? So that's the obsession, and then the privileges, we're able to do it when we scratch build, okay? I figured I should show you another angle. So here's the office side, right, window, and that's been penciled off and scribed. I haven't finished cleaning this, but I also drafted off on here, took the measurements on this side and put them on here and scribed the square outer line as well. Nice thing is I can get through the side window here and get a nice fairly good angle. Now the window sash will be able to cover some of it as well. But just let me say this in closing on this part. So these interior formers or shear walls are made from 60 thou, right? So this is where you got to be careful. So up to 40 thou you can cut fairly easily. I guess it's about as thick as I go before I start to drill and use you know, other means, because like the 60 thou makes a really rigid structure when it's welded. Like you can reef on it and it won't break, right? Which is, you know, one of the reasons why I like to use it for interior shear walls, etc. Okay, here's some 40 thou, but it's more of a cosmetic, the siding here, and I can beef it up with, well, once it's glued, the roof and everything, it's not going to matter. It's going to be structurally sound. So yeah, so just almost there, and I'll get this cleaned up and take it from there. It always feels nice to pop a window in. These windows I was going to leave out to paint, but they're going to be painted white anyway with just a green trim. So it'd be just as easy to do it this way. That way they get sprayed and they're in place. And then I want to put a bit of framing just on the inside here, because if you look through, I want to finish that. I don't want that gap there. There's a casing that goes around the windows. You can see there as well. So I'll do that. Now I'll show you the ticket window that's finished, but I'll show you like this drops in like this. Now you can see the ticket window, it's finished, right? I added a little bit of wainscoting here. I just did this with strip. You can get wainscoting from Grant Line as well, I've seen it. So those window frames worked out good, and then I put a casing on the inside just to clean up the hole with some 10 by 60 thou, and it cleaned it up real nice. And I'll put a shelf here. Give us a shelf on each side. So the ticket master could, or the telegram master, or whatever, radio man, or the news man, that's where they got it all at the station. So but that's kind of neat, okay? Okay, I just wanted to show you the front facade for the waiting room. So I've seen all manner of doors. I've seen 5-panel solid doors. I've seen some with skylights, some without, some with the door on this side and the window on this side. It's there's different. Well, there's several types of this station, but then there's a lot of variations as well. So I chose to go with this door because it lets more light in and it'll also let more light out, and I think it adds a little more character. So once again, I'm going to glue these in place because I want to put casing around the windows on the inside. Okay.